Depending on how terminally online you are, you might have heard of the hot new game on itch.io called The Coffin of Andy and LeyLey. Last week I played it all the way through, thinking to myself that I would try to enjoy what I imagined would be a new cult classic. One of those games that you're really impressed by and are amazed that they were made by an indie development team. But of course I found myself mostly bored by what I can barely call a game. I think that will be the key message of this review. This isn't a game. It's a visual novel made in RPG Maker. Due to a pandemic-esque situation, the meek and depressed Andrew and his borderline personality sister Ashley, Andy and LeyLey, have been locked in their apartment, abandoned by their mother and local government. It has been months since they've stepped foot outside, and they have just officially run out of food to eat. Every day, a character called the Warden will come by to check if they're alive and then gaslight them with promises of food if they just follow orders and be good little hostages. One day, they find themselves frustrated by their neighbor's creepy choice of music and choose to investigate by placing a large wooden plank between the two outside balconies. Finding that their neighbor has summoned a demon, the two are immediately taken aback by the fantastic nature of the situation, but will honestly believe anything at this point. They are so delirious from hunger. Not having anything to offer the demon for its services, the neighbor is magically killed by its would-be master. Due to a lack of food, Andy and LeyLey decide that they will butcher their neighbor and eat him, but are very quickly almost discovered by the Warden when he investigates their neighbor's disappearance. To cover up their crime, they kill the Warden. Then, through top-down item hunts and what could barely be called puzzle solving, they escape their apartment building and go on the run. Namely has 4 previous titles before this, all visual novels, and I suppose that's telling of what would come to be important in the development of Andy and LeyLey. The art here is top-notch. I would honestly imagine that most of Andy and LeyLey's Flavor of the Month status is held up by how top-notch it is. The goth girl aesthetic really sticks into the crevices of your brain. I would describe it as a mix between Tim Burton and Don't Starve with fantastically expressive and horny anime faces. The whole game has this yellowed paper palette. Negative space is used for great effect for line art on the mostly black environments, and anything that really does have color to it pops out like a rainbow. If you were one of those kids that really enjoyed Nightmare Before Christmas as a teen, or maybe Goosebumps, I'm looking at you, Mandalore, this is probably your jam. But the visuals aren't the only thing that comes with a slightly deranged twist. The music is fun, inspired, and actually fits the mood really well. Songs are composed according to the sounds that you would hear if you were locked in an apartment for months. Piano melodies are disharmonious and wild, or dreamy and full of reverb, or upbeat like a crazed circus. Things like small scratching noises for percussion, music box melodies, and tabla drums fill in any space left, completing the game's sense of style that it needs so desperately to stand out. And I need to stop saying that. Game. Unfortunately, The Coffin of Andy and LeyLey isn't really a game. I've said it before on the channel, and I'll say it again. To be considered a game, something has to have a win and a lose state. These are two things that Andy and LeyLey barely muster. The only times you can lose are when you can get a game over by walking into a kill plane. Sometimes in a cinematic moment, you'll still have control over where the character walks. If you walk the wrong direction, it triggers an animation that kills you. Then it places you right back where you were and then asks you to walk the other direction. Off the top of my head, I can only think of one time where this actually happened to me. As for a win state, there is an end, but Andy and LeyLey is just better off described as a visual novel. Though it is made in RPG Maker, there are no RPG elements, no stats, equipment, or combat. The best criticisms I could say for what the game needs is more puzzles or gameplay elements that take advantage of the game's premise. How about some puzzles that can be solved in 2 ways that will influence how the other sibling sees you and then changes how they act going forward? Just a thought. The entire game is walking and collecting items between cutscenes, dealing out Andrew and his sister's abusive symbiotic relationship. But that's why the internet likes the game so much. Ashley is attractive and obsessed with her brother in a way that could be interpreted as sexual or incestuous. It's all subtext, but it's impossible to not see. If you're an internet loser who just wants someone to love you, Ashley is the perfect codependent and abusive woman for you. For those of you who are in the know, though, she's just your average gaslighting yandere girl who happens to be in an art style people can have fun with on a Rule 34 website. Sure, she's hot, but that can't carry a game. You know what it can carry, though? A fandom. And Ashley and LeyLey's fandom is growing every day, and it will likely grow non-stop until we can get a sequel or people lose interest. This is the power of character design, people. Take notes. If you want success, take your characters and make them so easy to draw and hot that the internet loses its mind over how much fan art it can pump out over such a small amount of time, and then send all of that fan art to Mandalore. I'm giving the Coffin of Andy and LeyLey a 4 out of 10. Bad. For all its style and flourish, it can hardly be called a game and shouldn't be treated as such. Special thanks to our producers Anthony Wumbo, John Foreman, Zachary Coroner, and Biffman. Happy Orthodox Easter.